Hi, everyone. This is Mark Lane from Oldies 92.5 KVPI. And as we promised you, we have a special guest on the phone from her home in California, but she is a familiar voice on KVPI. Once upon a time, you could hear her every day on this microphone. I'm talking about Nancy Duplechain, Nancy K. Duplechain. And Nancy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's really fun to be back on the air with you.
And you are not here to talk about radio today. You are here to talk about a book that you have written. It's called Dark Bayou. Tell us a little bit about this. Well, before I even get to that point, where did you get the inspiration to write such a book? Did you always want to write a book?
Yes, I have. I've loved reading, and ever since I was a little kid, my dad loved books. He had all these books, all over the house, and so I just loved that. I wanted to write ever since I was a little girl. And so I actually, in college, thought I would be a screenwriter. So I took a lot of screenwriting, so in college I majored in English with a concentration in creative writing. I took a screenwriting class. Thought I might like screenwriting a little more. Then I moved out to Los Angeles about 3 years ago. Well, I decided to take a trip home a year later. So in April, I went back home to Louisiana to see my family and friends, and we decided to be totally tourists. So I took a swamp tour, something I have never done before in my life, which I'm kind of ashamed to admit because, we live in Acadiana. But we took a swamp tour, absolutely loved it, and I got inspired to write Dark Bayou from that tour. And so I came home to Los Angeles to my little apartment, and I started writing it. And a few months later, it was done, and I started, it was done.
Okay. So basically just that one tour of the bayou, that special trip gave you the inspiration or the background to write this book.
Exactly. That and being back home, with all the Cajun culture and everything, because the story takes place mostly in the Abbeville and Lafayette areas, but also a key scene of the book takes place on Lake Martin in Breaux Bridge.
I'd like to ask authors, do you have in your mind exactly how the whole thing's going to flesh out from start to finish, or while you were writing, you really didn't know how everything was going to end up?
I like to map things out before I begin writing. I don't map everything out because I like a few things to, be a surprise to me, but for most part, I did know how everything was going to end. And in fact, while I was writing this book, I already realized that I wanted it to have a sequel and also to be a trilogy. So there are going to be 2 more books at least. In fact, I'm almost finished writing the sequel to this one.
Wow. How long did it actually take you to write Dark Bayou?
The rough draft took me about 5 months. And then after that, it was a long process of editing. And I actually hired an editor after one point where I thought, okay, I've done all I could with it myself. Really needed another pair of eyes to come in, so I hired an editor to go through it, and she helped me out a lot, gave me great notes, cleaned it up, and then it was all set to go from there.
Well, I've not had a chance, Nancy, to go through the book, but I've just read bits and pieces, and it looks very, very interesting. Give us the plot line of Dark Bayou.
Sure, it's a supernatural tale. I think it's good for teen to adult readers, but it's a supernatural tale. And it's basically the story of a young lady named Lee Benoit. She's in her 20s, and she returns home to Louisiana for the funeral of her brother and his wife. And she becomes increasingly concerned about her orphaned niece, Lila. So she's prompted by her grandmother named Clotilde. And yes, I chose that name because that is a very Cajun name. So Clotilde is her grandmother, and she encourages Lee to move back to take care of Lila. Well, Lee in this whole time has been in California. She doesn't really want to move to Louisiana again because she had, bad memories of her parents dying. But she decides to come back, and, well, supernatural things start to happen, little spooky things here and there. And her childhood friend, a detective, Lucas Castile with the Lafayette Police Department, tells her that her brother and sister-in-law died a mysterious death, and that his young son has dreams of this dark man, this mysterious dark man, who wants to harm Lila, who's Lee's niece. So Lee vows to protect her niece and finds out there's more to the story and more to her grandmother than she thought. And it's great because it's set around the Lafayette, Acadiana area and around Abbeville. And there's a lot of Cajun references, especially with Clotilde. She's in her 80s, so she's mostly based on my grandmother, Ella.
I was going to ask you if any part of this book was based on any true life experiences in your life.
Well, what characters they are. Definitely Lee's friend, Carrie. Lee has a best friend in the story named Carrie, and she's kind of based on one of my friends. But also Clotilde, the grandmother, she is definitely based on my grandmother. And people who know me who have read it, they could see right into that.
Oh, good. Very good. For those interested in perhaps picking up a copy of Dark Bayou by Nancy K. Duplechain, can they order that book here locally in Ville Platte?
They absolutely can. They can order it from any bookstore. You can also get it online on Amazon.com, but I invite people to check out my website, and I have a link there for them. But my website is www.nancykduplechain.com. That's Nancy, the letter K, and Duplechain is DUPLECHAIN.com. And I'll have links there where people can purchase the book. I also invite people to check out Amazon because people have written these wonderful reviews of the book on Amazon, so you can definitely see what other people are saying. And the biggest compliment I've been getting is that it's a definite page turner. It's hard to put down, and they can't wait for the second one. And that makes me really, really happy. That's the greatest compliment. It'll be available as an ebook within a few weeks.
And what's so interesting, because you're basically from South Louisiana, and you were able to authenticate it by using all these localized place names, the locales, and as well as the names of all these French people.
Exactly, and I have to admit I had to have a little help with some of the Cajun words that Clotilde uses because she's speaks a lot of Cajun French, and so I had to have a little bit of help with that one because I grew up hearing all these words but I never knew how to spell them. So I had a little bit of help with that. But it's definitely fun, and I think people from the Acadiana area will definitely love it, and especially Ville Platte. It's my hometown.
Nancy, for those people who are listening to KVPI today who don't know who Nancy K. Duplechain, how about a little bit of background about yourself?
Well, I am from Ville Platte, lived there all my life, and I went to Sacred Heart. I was a graduate of Sacred Heart High School. I worked at KVPI for quite a while. In fact, a total of 6 years I worked at KVPI, and I loved every minute of it. Y'all were so nice to me there, so great to me. And then I decided to go to college. I went to UL Lafayette, and I majored in English with a concentration in creative writing. I graduated with a degree in general studies. And then, for a while I worked in radio. Then, shortly after my father passed away, I decided to move to California. And people will remember my father, I believe, from the Ville Platte Post Office. His name was Ron Duplechain. He worked the front desk. So I think a lot of people will remember him. So after he passed, I moved to California. I've been out here for 3 years. And it was a year after I moved here that I took that swamp tour on Lake Martin in Bro Bridge. That's where I got inspired to write, and here I am today.
And that swamp tour basically changed your life.
It pretty much did, and I encourage people to check out that swamp tour. It was great. It was a 2-hour tour with a guy named Butch, but he is a conservationist, and you learn so much on that. I actually have a link to his website on my website, so if anyone wants to check that out.
And again, how do they get to your website, Nancy?
Sure, it's www.nancykduplechain.com. That's Nancy, the letter K, and Duplechain with a CHAIN.
And they can order Dark Bayou directly from your website.
Well, I have a link for them to order it. The link will take them to Amazon, but you can get it from other websites too, like Barnes & Noble or Books A Million. And as always, support your local bookstores. You can go in there and order it from them. So,
like, for example, here in Ville Platte, you can order it at Susan's.
Exactly. I know someone who already did order it from Susan's. So you can just go right in there and say, I'd like to order it. And hopefully, eventually a lot of bookstores will start carrying it. That's my goal, is to get bookstores to start stocking my book.
Well, great. Well, it's good talking with you again. And we understand you're going to be coming down to God's country in the next few months. Looking forward to perhaps talking with you some more. And best of luck with the new book, Dark Bayou.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
All right, Nancy K. Duplechain, our special guest on Oldies 92.5 KVPI. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Mark.